All right. So where we left off in thinking about freedom, right? Are we free? Do we have it? What is it? How do we account for it? What do we know about it? How is it understood? How can freedom actually exist if there is restraints imposed on us by society, the government, religion, whatever the case may be? Okay? Right? Because then that would mean that freedom doesn't actually exist because we're being restrained, we're being, contained. Okay? In philosophy, there are kind of various ways of thinking about freedom, and these are historically represented often. And in thinking about that, and in thinking about that, I want to showcase kind of two different ideas as it relates to freedom. So there's one position, philosophically speaking, called determinism, which I'm sure some of you might be familiar with, but it's this idea that really we're not free at all. This kind of fake representation of free will. When in fact, everything that we are doing, everything that we hope for in life has been determined either for us. Often this is used kind of in a religious context that God has a plan for us, blah, 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 right? We're doing God's will, blah, 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 right? And so we're following that path, okay? But more kind of philosophically speaking, without kind of any sort of spiritual undertones or religious undertones, is the idea that all of our choices determine all of our other choices, right? That the fact that I am having and making this video lecture for you at all right now is due to the fact that everything up until my life at this point has determined for me to make this video right now. Okay? That in a way, I don't have any other choice. Right? That even when I was 3 years old, I was on this course, I was on this path that would eventually lead me to be making this video right now. Specifically defined is this. Determined is the view that every event in the universe is dependent upon other events which are its causes. All human actions and decisions are totally dependent on prior events that cause them. Okay? So this idea that even when we think we have choice, even when we think we have some sort of power over our own lives, we have some sort of power over our own choices, in fact we don't. We don't. Because in fact, everything is just determined for us. The fact that I'm making this video for you right now, the fact that it's taking as long as it is, determines the rest of my day. Right? And the rest of my day is only exists because of what is happening right now, and the way that causes the rest of my day to unfold. There's another position called indeterminism. And it's this idea that defined as the thesis that at least some of the events in the universe are not determined, are not caused by antecedent conditions, and may not be predictable. The fact that, metaphysically speaking, that there are things that are up to chance, that are up to kind of metaphysical, that just happen, right? That maybe, in fact, right, that there is much more kind of randomness in the universe, randomness in our lives, as it relates to how we control what we think we control, how we control ourselves, etc. Okay? And I mean, most people, and you can find a bunch of different videos that kind of unpack determinism, indeterminism, and then this last one, kind of compatibilism, which tries to kind of combine both, right? And that's, I mean, the position that feels the most safe, because I think that, a lot of people, and I think myself included here, I mean, it would be naive to say or try to claim that, events in my life haven't determined the future of my life, right? The idea that yeah, I mean, I think the phrase that is often heard is that the past determines the future. Sure, right? I don't think that that's too contentious of a thought to claim. But also that there's some randomness involved as well, Right? So compatibilism is the following. The thesis that both determinism, or some interpretations of it, and free action can be true. The determined does not rule out free action, and the possibility of free action does not require that determinism be false. Let me read that again. Determined does not rule out the free action, and the possibility of free action does not require that determinism be false. And so again, this idea that there can be both, right? The fact that I'm giving this video lecture right now is the fact that I'm an instructor in the Department of Philosophy at the University of Idaho, which was determined by the fact that I got into graduate school at the University of Idaho, that I didn't get into graduate school at a different university, right? That would have determined a lot more kind of future trajectory, right? But I also have free will, right? Or I have, free action to throw that pin. The determinist would say, well, but you wouldn't have had that free action were the pin not on your paper, were you not teaching this lecture, and kind of like boil it back down to the fact that, everything that we're talking about just determined for me to throw that pin. Where I want to say, no, right, it was all voluntary, it was all, just because I wanted to, out of my own free volition. The determinist is going to have a reply, but I think a lot of us would like to believe in this kind of sense of a compatible sense of freedom and indeterminism, determinism and indeterminism, right? To get a little bit more serious here, and this is again kind of like complex, but if I were to have an illness, whether that be maybe a mental illness or if I were to have cancer or something like that, and I'm not equating cancer and mental illness, please, like don't take that the wrong way, but I'm just saying if I were to have an illness, right, if I have a cancer of the liver, I can't just say, stop, liver, stop having cancer, right? I can't do that. But in fact, part of like my biology, part of me having this illness is definitely going to determine the trajectory of the way that I can live my life, right? The notion that really I am beholden to physical restraints of my body. So again, kind of comes back to that question that we started with, what is freedom? If I have cancer, I can't just say, go away, cancer. I'm not that free anymore, right? I am going to be dictated by this cancer. Okay? So, again, thinking about this in terms of like that ultimate question, are we free? Do we have freedom? If we do have freedom, what is it? How contained, how restricted are we? All, I think, really important and challenging questions.